The reason for that is the first thing I want to do is cut off the bottom of the container. And if it's one of the wooden boxes, you can also do the same thing. Just take a mattock or a hammer and knock off the slats that cover the bottom of the box. In this case, I'm just going to use the box cutter here and cut around, hopefully, around the bottom of the container here and take the bottom completely off. I can do this without cutting anything I shouldn't. So you can cut around and then just roll the tree a bit and cut the rest. Find my mark.
Recycle plastic. Plastic recycling.
Thank you.
What type it is?
It looks like a number 2.
Yeah, it's 2.
We do too.
And of course, when you're rolling the tree and laying it down, be careful not to snap any branches, things like that. So what this is going to allow me to do is get the tree into the hole without the root ball falling apart on me. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And this one's easy. I'll just slide it into place here, tip it back. And the first thing obviously we want to do once we get it in the hole, but before we go any further, is make sure that the tree is in the orientation that we want. So stepping back, tree usually has one aspect that's more handsome than the other, and there's usually going to be a spot or two from which the tree will be viewed most frequently. And in this case, it's not too critical, but if you're in a right-of-way or in somebody's yard, you want to be really conscious of the orientation. I don't have any objections to the orientation here, but I'm not stepping back. It looks pretty good. The other thing we want to check is the elevation here. The most common mistakes people make when they plant, they either plant too low or too high, and those both can present problems. So generally what we want to do is plant so that the root ball, the soil here in the top of the pot, is the same level as the existing grade around it. So we don't want to plant low, we don't want to plant high, we want to plant even. And then if we need to put a little berm around the tree to retain watering, if we're hand watering, we can put that berm and then pull it away when it's no longer needed, and we don't end up with our tree sitting in a hole. And so that's a reason for planting on an even grade like this. This looks pretty close to the adjacent grade, and it's oriented well, and it looks basically vertical. Maybe you guys can confirm that from the other angle.
It looks like vertical from here.
Okay. So then finally what I'll do, since I've got it oriented like I want, is just go and cut up one side of the pot here, and if I get it right, it should come right off. Sometimes these plastic ones can be pretty tough. And now I can pull this off, and the root ball's sure to stay together. If you have a root ball that's not well consolidated, you can even start to backfill before you pull that plastic out, and that'll help keep things in place too. So here we are ready to go. A lot of times you'll get nursery plants that are root bound, meaning they've been in that container a long time, the roots are growing in a circle around the container, and that can really be a detriment to the tree. This one is not root bound, but if they are, what you want to do is just take a sharp tool and cut once up each side, 3 or 4 places, and that just cuts any circling roots, encourages it to grow outward. You can also use your hand and just rough up the root ball a little bit, encourage those roots to grow out. But this one looks to be in pretty good shape. So what we're going to do is take some of this good planting mix in the background and mix it into this native soil, and we're going to use that to backfill.
You see the roots right here where they're all consolidated?
Yeah.
That probably needs a little teasing, okay, to get those broken up a little bit. But the rest of it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and it doesn't take much. Just
doesn't
a
take
little
much.
bit of
See,
roughing.
and then those will, once you put in the topsoil on that, that'll fill right in, and the roots will grow and spread like they should.
So then finally, as I said, we'll take that planting mix. We're going to mix that with our native soil and use that to backfill. So the one last point I want to make on the planting here is as we start to fill this hole back in, we don't want to put all the soil in at once. We want to put a little bit in and then use your feet or your tools and tamp it down. Make sure it's nice and compacted, that there's no air pockets in there, and then put more soil, tamp, and repeat, rather than trying to backfill all at once. You'll end up with air pockets, you'll end up with settling, and you'll come back next week and that tree will be inches lower than you put it in. So let's make sure as we backfill that we're tamping and compacting, and then once we're done, hopefully we can water all this in by irrigation. So that's the basic process, and I think